Welcome to a transformative journey toward a purposeful life through minimalism. Imagine a life free from clutter, both physical and mental. That's what minimalism offers. It's not just about having less, it's about making room for what truly matters. Start by decluttering, a simple yet powerful act. Remove the obvious trash, and then focus on a small area like a drawer. Sort items into 3 piles: keep, donate, and toss. From what you keep, find a designated place. Time management is key. Allocate a few minutes each day and use a timer to stay focused. Challenges? Take the 14-day declutter challenge to transform your life in just 2 weeks. Remember, minimalism is a tool for finding freedom and focusing on your health, happiness, and what's truly important. Make the choice today to live a more purposeful life. So Leo, I don't know if you ever took a challenge. What did your process look like?
So when I started, it wasn't so much a challenge, but it was a process of just layer after layer, starting to remove all of the clutter. And it was from my house to like the stuff I had on my computer to, like, as Katie was saying, the stuff in my head. So one layer at a time, I started to look at all of this stuff. But I really recommend challenges. So the 14-day challenge, I think, is a great idea, because what happens is when people are like, I really want to declutter my house, but like, look at, like, that video was a great example of it. This woman just like having piles of clothes, and it can get really overwhelming. And so when it's overwhelming like that, it can really help to have a challenge that helps you to like really focus and go through a process. And so even if you just did like 10 to 20 minutes a day, which is very doable, just like a little chunk that you can do each day, and have a challenge where you're sharing and holding some accountability and sharing it with other people, you can actually make a big change in 14 days. My first 14 days of decluttering were huge. And so it's a lifelong process, is really taking stock of what you have and being conscious of your clutter and just like what's in your life. But a 14-day challenge can really be a big start.
You're open about periodically falling off the wagon.
Oh, all the time.
What's that?
Yeah. So it's just like, it's taking your eye off the ball, like for a little while, that's not my focus, and I'm really in the creative mode. So I'm like just creating all the time. And because my mind is focused on something else, I'll clutter will build up. And one example of that for me is like, I'm not thinking about minimalism for a while, maybe for like 6 months to a year. And then, but I get really obsessed with something. So like I'm super into a certain topic, and I'll order like a stack of books on that topic, which I probably am never going to read, but just like something in my mind really wants all those books. Or like one time I got into ultralight backpacking, and I started ordering all this expensive ultralight gear. Like it's all like more expensive than usual backpacking. Yeah. And then my garage got filled with it. And I'm like, holy crap, what did I just do? So it's just kind of like, you're not always aware of the stuff coming into your life and like the tendencies of your mind. And one of the things I really love about minimalism is it starts to bring awareness to our mind's tendency. Like if I have this stack of books or a bunch of stuff on backpacking, like my mind's tendency is to like deal with the uncertainty of this topic by buying a bunch of books. That brings more awareness going forward, so that I don't always like repeat that. But yeah, no, I'm constantly like reassessing. This past June, I took a month off, and I'm like, what am I going to do this month? And I said, I'm going to go super minimalist and be really like Spartan about my stuff. And I just went through and I like gave a bunch of stuff away. I just saw like all the stuff that had been accumulating over the last during the pandemic, basically. And it was really nice. It was freeing to get rid of all of that. So I actually really like that process of coming back to it and then freeing myself of this, taking stock.
Facebook Marketplace has become like my best friend, because I can either sell something and get it out of my house, or I can just give it away, and someone will come to my door and happily take it away, and they're happy and I'm happy.
That's great. That's awesome. Make someone happy, get rid of your stuff. That's a win-win, right?
Yes, and then when I tell my wife, I'm like, I actually sold that for $20, and she's just in shock. She's like, well, that's a bonus. She's like, getting it out of the house is a win. Getting $20 is even better.
She's like, cha-ching. Great. What else do you want to sell, honey?
Exactly. Well, she gave me a whole stack of kids' winter coats this morning. She's like, see if you can list these on Facebook Marketplace or give them away. Katie, have you had a hard time like keeping it up? Like that woman told you should declutter.
Yeah.
Do you go through phases?
Absolutely. I love what he was just mentioning about it's almost like it's just human nature. Like I don't know if it's subconscious or what it is, but yes, of course, at times things start to pile up and I don't even realize I just went on Amazon and ordered all these books or ordered all whatever it may be. But Leo, I have a tendency to have this sort of, I have obsessions over things for a certain amount of time. And anyways, I appreciate the process of getting back into it, of having the aha moment of like, oh, right, I just got all of this. Now I have all this junk or stuff, all this stuff that I need to now purge and get rid of. But it did get really bad. More recently, I'd say probably, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, it got so bad to where I had a storage unit of stuff and I was paying for it. And I did the math, and the amount of money I spent on this stuff just to keep it was insane. And so I went to the storage unit. I saw the amount of stuff that had accumulated. It was so overwhelming to the point where I just turned around and said, just donate. I can't even go through this. Like, I'd rather just donate this and someone can appreciate and have the space, and it will these things will have a place rather than it's just sitting there and I'm just writing a check to, I think it's called Clutter.com. Sorry to say that. And it was freeing again. And it was like, oh, right. And I can breathe. And I even moved to another, I went from a 3,000 square foot house into a condo that's just over 2,000 square feet. And my condo, I mean, I live at the beach, so water, yes. I also I'm lucky enough to also have a view of the mountains, and my space, it's not as big. So I had to get rid of a lot of stuff. And I've never been happier. So I definitely think all of this, it all plays a part in our well-being and how we feel about ourselves and what we put out and project out into the world.
Mark, how does feng shui relate to minimalism?
I think there's a common thread about conscious relationship. And so with minimalism, I mean, one of the benefits is when there's less, you can have a clearer relationship with things because you see them, it's organized, but you know what you have. And I wouldn't say that I'm a minimalist per se, but what feng shui can bring to the conversation is that emphasis of being mindful of the impact of everything that's in your space so that and also its condition. Because, the way that I translate it, when there's clutter, I mean, we match energetically. I was talking about the 5 elements, right? If some of the elements are missing, you'll either match what's missing or you'll fill in the blanks and overemphasize what's missing. If you have a stack of stuff that's not being used or that's not in the right place, you feel that you're not being well used in your life and you feel out of place. And, really, it's interesting that we use these words like possessions and belongings. And if you think about that, like when you possess something, it sounds very transactional, right? And when it's a belonging, it actually belongs in your home. And what everybody, I think, on the planet is looking for is belonging, not fitting in, which involves actually compromising your state of being in a way that's not truthful. So, the real emphasis is, if everything in your home actually belongs there because it reflects who you are, it's of importance, it's being used, it has its place that's logical and ideally with some aesthetics, then that's something that I believe creates some flow just symbiotically because of how it is that we are always in this dynamic relationship with our surroundings. So again, it's not, it's a lot easier to keep track of stuff if you're more minimal. I consider myself more of a conscious maximalist. So, I have quite a bit of stuff, but I know where it is. And even if I'm sort of, color blocking my books, I actually know, this one's that color and I go for it. That's actually a technique which can seem really superficial to sort of arrange your books by color. But what it does is you can actually see each block as one item instead of seeing all the individual books. So there's a level on which your brain is seeing less clutter, because it's not seeing all of these different things all at once in one section. So, the whole red section actually can read as one thing simultaneous with all of the individual books. So there's all of these techniques that you can use, but the main thing is you want to be conscious of what you have. And when it's unconscious or when it's like not being used, it's not in the right place, that's going to have reverberations in your life. So Katie, good on you for that whole big release job. I mean, it's so freeing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Matthias, how can architecture support a minimalist lifestyle?
Well, architects, as you might know, love to talk about this. So I'll try to keep it really short. So from an architectural point of view, there's, the process of decluttering promotes an efficient use of space. And at a more abstract level, one thought is that it's a very purpose-driven process if I declutter or if I organize. The purpose behind it is that if I remove items from my life that no longer serve me, I make space for items that do. And that is something fundamentally important to understand, that yes, I can have all those things around me, but they distract me and they confuse me, and they really do not help my focus on things that really matter in life. I would like to just last thought on this. I would like to propose or introduce the concept of inversion thinking, which kind of goes the direction, which is, instead of thinking what makes you happier, think of what would make you miserable and avoid it at all cost. So the concept of identifying the things we shouldn't do is often easier for us, and the concept of identifying things around us that are in the way of things is easiest. And if we can start there, it might give us focus on things that really do matter in life and our decision making.
That's a great tip. After this show, I will address the pile of papers at my feet and throw them all out.
Oh, thank goodness. Pile of papers. I just got overwhelmed thinking about that.
Isn't that amazing, though? Because, I mean, literally the thought of it can actually induce the stress. It's not even like just the physical state of it. Like, and we all have these relationships. We've all got that experience. And so this is where, having that clear relationship. And I love that concept of inversion thinking, because that's really, that's another, just as soon as you release, something in your environment that, it's not serving a purpose, you might actually have some aversion to, like, Aunt Gladys's tea set I keep referring to in my talks, like, you didn't like Aunt Gladys, you don't like the tea set. Why are you keeping it? It's actually sending you messages that say you're willing to put up with stuff that you don't like for somebody else, and that's in your personal space. Like, we have to make compromises in the outside world to get along with people, but in your personal space, you should really have a say. And what Leo said, of course, is right on, that you take personal responsibility, and there's this whole concept of shared space, so you don't get this sort of overlord sort of mentality of necessarily, although there's places where with 6 kids you will, but but when everybody learns that level of self-responsibility and shared space, and you give yourself that, and release what it is that no longer serves, you definitely, as everybody's been saying, you open up your physical space and also your mental and emotional space for what it is that is in alignment in present time.
I have a question for you, Mark. So after saying that about Aunt Gladys's tea set, I don't know, I feel as though anything like, I feel Aunt Gladys's tea set holds Aunt Gladys's energy. And do you believe that the things hold on to energy, I guess is my question.
Mhm.
And what if that, Aunt Gladys's tea set, and obviously if we didn't like Aunt Gladys, why are we holding on to the tea set? Because we're told, society tells us we shouldn't.
Yeah,
we should.
It's disrespecting if you get rid of it. It's challenging, and it's always compromise. Yes, I do believe things hold energy, and I think, for a lot of people that'll sound woo-woo, but to bring it down to just the conscious level of awareness, if you are consciously aware that you don't like it, and that you didn't like her, then that's part of the energy that's being held. So, that level of relationship is really part of it. I think there is that which is sight unseen. And, so people will do smudging and so on. It's not like the biggest part of my practice at all. I really work on just that, let's make conscious choices. Let's, that's that with that minimalist mindset, or the consciousalist mindset, or whatever we want to call it, of making the conscious choice of why you have something in your space.
I have something to add to that, if I might. So I don't know if objects hold energy, like Aunt Gladys's energy, for example. But I do believe that they trigger an energy in us, that the experience of Aunt Gladys is within us. And so when we see her tea set, something comes up in us, and maybe it's like a aversion, right? So this tea set triggers something in us. It's like these bad memories and this bad energy. Yeah. And so the thing I really love about minimalism is that it actually has us confront those energies. So if we have something that we're really holding on to, it could be, instead of Aunt Gladys, maybe it's my grandfather's vase, right? So I'm looking at his vase and I'm like, if I get rid of this, like I'm getting rid of him and the memories that I have for him, the love that I have for him. And I love that minimalism has us confront that, because actually it's not, I don't believe it's actually in that vase. Maybe it is, I don't know for sure. But my grandfather's energy is in me. And so when I see that object, I feel the love for him. The memories and all of that are all here. What I realize is that I can let go of the object and that energy is still here. Like I still have an incredible love for him. And I might have his picture show up on my phone so that energy gets triggered in another way. But I don't need the actual object to have that memory or love.
Totally agree. And it doesn't mean that we should then just get rid of things. Like if you really like something, again, there can be that positive emotion having the thing, and then you don't need that thing also. Like if it broke, if something happened, then that your grandfather's energy is still in you. So it's not having this just be either or, but really having the whole spectrum and the whole field, and then just making a choice.
Let's move on to segment 3.